Bella's Po V. Today is the day. I smiled at my reflection in the mirror, my graduation cap hung up on my head. The smile was a reflection of everything I've been through for the past years, my strength and vitality. I sniffed in as tears started to burn in the back of my head, forming in my large black orbs. I took some steps back, pushing back all the bad thoughts away from my head to focus on myself. It was me today. Everything was all about me. I was the Bella that survived all the thick and hard times, and I am now the Bella that needs to start living. I stared at the blue gown I was wearing inside my graduation gown, one that my mother or adoptive mother has given to me. Another set of fresh hot tears pooled my eyes as I thought about it. I would give anything for her to see me in it, for her to witness that everything she has poured in me and I have in her was now here to see, that I performed well and fulfilled everything. My name is Bella Montague, adoptive daughter of Alpha Gray and Luna Cora of the Darkmouth Pack. According to them, I was found in their pack, lying unconscious, in a bush when I was 7. When they asked me who I was and where I came from, I had not been able to answer because I could not remember anything. And it has been like that ever since then. My memories from before I met them or they found me has been blank, leading to me not knowing where I really originated from. And because of that, everyone saw me as an outcast, as a curse in the pack. I was the girl whom they all took pity on and bullied as if it was the last day on earth and they needed to take it out on someone. Your parents never wanted you, Bella. Maybe that's why they threw you off. Maybe they wanted you dead. Maybe? You think maybe? I'm sure she was such a burden and useless girl, and that's why they threw her away. Look at her. Does she look like someone that has any use in life? Those were words I grew up hearing from the members of the pack, including my own adoptive father, Alpha Gray. With him, it was more like a hatred that I didn't know where it came from. He looked at me like I was vomit, a disgusting thing that he didn't want to have anything to do with. At dinners, he avoided me like a plague. He would not be seen with me or even have anything to do with me. And on the days where our paths mistakenly crossed, he punished me for it. He would ask his guards to lock me up in the dungeon with nothing, or sometimes during one winter, strip me bare of my clothing and ask me to stay outside in the cold till the next morning. Next time, you'll think well before calling me your father, you bastard, he growled out as he slammed the door on me. I had stayed outside for more than 5 hours before the door opened, and Luna Cora rushed out, her eyes pooled with tears as she threw a blanket over me, covering me and ushering me outside. Maybe I should have died that night. Maybe I should have let the cold kill me and reject Luna Cora's help. At least I wouldn't have to face the cruel nature of everyone again. I wouldn't have to be labeled the girl no one wants, the one that her parents wanted to kill, the one that swarmed her way through deceits and lies into the kind-hearted Luna. While her husband was a total jerk to me, Luna Cora warmed up to me in every possible way. She fed me. She nurtured me. I could still remember her voice when I was 9, reading me a bedtime story and us laughing together. Everything was good as long as she was around. Even Alpha Gray never dared to touch me whenever she was around. She cared for me. She reassured me that none of the words of every other member mattered, and I mattered greatly to her. But everything came crashing down after that night in the cold. I was woken up bitterly and harshly by Alpha Gray, dragged by my hair into a room to find Luna Cora unconscious in her room. Alpha Gray slapped me instantly, his eyes darkening red and dangerous in a way I have never seen it before. "Look at what you've done, you bitch! Look at this! Why?" He slapped me again, pointing to Luna Cora. "Your Highness," I stuttered, tears rolling down my eyes. He approached me, dragging me again with my hair and pulling me closer to Luna Cora. She was fine when she pulled me out of the cold. She was doing all okay. What happened? Why was she not waking up? Why was her lips blue? I don't know what she sees in you, but look at what you've caused. You've given her a disease. You've infected her with your stupid curse. You good-for-nothing girl. I should have let you die that night instead of taking you in. That day was the worst day of my entire life back then. The doctor read it loud and clear into my ears that Luna now has a heart disease. Out of anger for what her husband did, she had punished herself in the cold too, staying there until she was found unconscious outside. There were troubles with her heart already, and staying in the cold, the heavy winter time just worsened it. I was 14 back then. 14. When Alpha Gray decided to make my life a living hell, he punished me at every chance he got, and made sure I was the laughing stock of the entire pack. He was brutal to me in every way. And when the time came for me to get my wolf and I did not, the bullying tripled. I got a new nickname, the Wolfless Girl. But I was never the Wolfless Girl. I had my wolf right and intact within me, our voices a breath of each other. But for some reason she asked me to keep her a secret, to not let anyone know that I have a wolf. I endured every torture and torment from every pack member and kept her a secret. When I was 15, I decided to go to medical school. Cora's condition was worsening, and I was in debt to her. I squeezed through, working jobs and trying everything to make sure I could pass and survive, that I could get enough money to treat her, or perhaps even treat her myself. When Cora found out what I was doing, she assisted me. For the first time in a long time, I felt her love. I want you to know, Bella, that you're not the cause of any of this. You were just a child and he did that to you, and I'm so sorry. You don't have to do any of this. I have to do this. I have to save you. I can't just watch you die, Luna. It's all my fault. I remember crying on her bed. No, she coughed out, managing to pat my hair. It's my fault for allowing him to constantly treat you that way and letting him step all over you. It's my fault. If anything, it's my fault. Don't blame yourself, sweet girl. I was always her sweet girl, the one that she cared for and would always care for. That evening, she had given me a whole lot of money, and when I asked her, she told me not to tell anyone. You're my daughter. A mother ought to help her daughter. It was with that money I paid for most of my classes till the end, and today I was graduating. I was leaving medical school with the highest grade in my class. I looked at my teary eyes and face in the mirror, sniffing a whole lot of snort in. Today, I was not the Bella that was always stepped on, but a medical student. I could now get a job and take care of Cora, and I could treat her after getting a job. I smiled as I picked up my phone and my bag. I was going to celebrate a little before returning to the pack and telling them the good news. I dialed my boyfriend's number, Max, but it went straight to his voicemail. Where did he put his phone? I mumbled as I stashed my phone back into my bag, hailing a cab and giving the taxi man his address. Max and I have been dating since the beginning of medical school. He was the alpha to the Cartmouth pack, and we were both fated mates. I felt the bond since the first day we met, but because I was not allowed to reveal my wolf, we settled for being boyfriends and girlfriends. He had no idea we were mates, nor did he have any idea that I had a wolf. Thank you. Have a nice day. I smiled at the taxi driver, exiting the car. He was the first man to show me what real love is. Everywhere that Alpha Gray lacked in showing his love to me, Max has picked every point, showing me how much I mattered and how much he cared for me. I entered the elevator, beaming in all smiles as I stared at myself in the mirror. The elevator stopped and rang out, pulling me out of my thoughts as I made my way to his apartment. A frown etched my features as I saw the door open, wondering who was in. Max was never going to be around and not pick my call. He told me he was going to be late today. I looked at my watch, the time reading 4:45. He was not supposed to be home until 7 p.m. according to him. I inched further, about to open the door when I heard his voice, and the words that followed made my heart shatter into various pieces. Bella? You mean that wolfless piece of shit? I'm just fooling around with her. I don't need her. She's useless. She's poor. She feeds on me more than I ever feed on her, and worst of it, she won't even spread her legs. What the fuck do I need from a trashy woman like her? Bella SPOV. I gulped down, shaking my head in denial as I clutched my bag hard to my chest. No, none of it can be real. Max would not say something like that about me. He loved me. We loved each other. I've spent days on that bed telling him how much I want to have sex with him, but I just needed the timing to be right. I love him. I was going to tell him everything. Tell him I have a wolf and we were fated mates. Let him see the mate bond. I was going to give him the whole of me tonight. To let him connect with my wolf and every part of me. My thoughts were cut short as a giggle that I knew too well could not belong to Max came out of the room, causing my heart to clutter more in pain. I took a deep breath and closed my eyes, my lips trembling as their words entered my ear. So why don't you leave her? Why don't you break up with her if she's useless? I bit down on my lower lips, my heart gnawing in pain already as I waited for his response. Smooching sound came out first before his low raspy chuckle escaped his lips. I intend on breaking up with her. It felt like every muscle in me snapped together as a raw pain filled me up. I collapsed silently beside the door, my eyes shut tightly to avoid tears rolling down my face. I clenched both my jaw and my knuckles so hard, trying to divert the pain that was pulling all my organs inside to my outside. No, no. My lips trembled as small sobs escaped them, the tears burning and ripping my eyes open, rolling down my cheeks in extreme pain. She's a pain in the ass, my love. She doesn't know anything. She doesn't care for anything besides her stupid mother. Babbling on and on about how she needs to care for a woman that doesn't even care for her. Have you seen the clothes she wears? She's just not good for me. I'm from wealth and riches and she... He paused. My ears perked up as low anger started rumbling within me. She's from a small town with no one. What good would such a girl do for me? I let out a low, painful laugh amidst my sobs, bringing my hand to cover my mouth as I kept laughing. Come on, my love. The only reason I even pursued her in the first place was because my friends won't stop talking about her tight ass, and she wouldn't even allow me to touch or fuck them. I kept on laughing, my entire pain turning into shame and embarrassment for myself. Here I had thought we had something, that he was the one for me. He was my mate, my own mate, and he was there spouting nonsense about me, about my life. The tears rolled down amidst my laughter, the pain roaring amidst my anger. I thought about all the times we've spent together, all the laughs, all the I love yous that he has always whispered. You're so goddamn beautiful, Bella. I can't imagine anyone ever treating you like scum. I love you. He has muttered to me before kissing me deeply 3 nights before. I managed to stand up, my stomach twisted in deep raw pain and anger. I took the first step towards the door, wondering if I should confront him, if I should tell him that he was just a jerk, and he doesn't matter to me either. So what? What if he was rich? What if his pack was bigger than mine? I cleaned my face, catching his face, his large smile and disgust immediately filling me up. Reject him, Bella. Let him feel the pain too. Say the words. My wolf uttered in me. I clenched my jaw hard, anger and rage boiling together within me. Every sound of his laughter, of his words, made my fist tighten more and more, my eyes glaring daggers at his back. Say the words, Bella. Say it. I gulped down, my heart pounding hard in my heart, the desire to feel him writhe in an unknown pain turning my ears. I wanted him to feel just as much as he made me feel today. To feel like everything he has ever known was a lie, to feel his entire world collapsing and his lungs struggling to find air. He would never know it was me. He would never know that he just lost his mate, which he would never get back. And I would be here, watching him struggle, try to catch his breath and his stupid new love figure out what was going wrong. A smirk stumbled on my shaky lips as I took a deep breath, my eyes catching sight of the green knitted cardigan I made for him on his birthday, lying on the front of his bathroom like a dirty rug. I scoffed out quietly, allowing the anger to consume me. I, Bella Montague, rejects you, Max Cartmouth, as my mate. I muttered under my breath. Let me tell. The rest of the words hung in his throat as I watched him clutch his chest, immediately slumping on the bed. A smile tugged the corners of my lips up as he started coughing, hitting his chest hard. Something is wrong, my lungs, my chest. The smile on my face grew bigger, my eyes marveling at how much pain he was feeling. I watched his face start turning into pink, his orbs staring at the ceiling, and the fear that was in them, even in his voice. What's wrong, Alex? Tell me. The lady screamed out. I picked my bag, not wanting to see the lady that was suitable and good enough for him. I spared him one last look and eyed him disdainfully. Rot in hell, Max. I mumbled to myself, turning back and walking away with both pain and satisfaction. Happy graduation to us, Nina. I muttered to my wolf as I pressed the elevator doors, stepping into it with one place in mind and another battle to face. Home, Bella's POV. My eyes locked onto his, my heart pounding against my rib cage. And just like I had predicted, his left hand collided with my right cheek, the sound resonating through the spacious room. My eyes fluttered shut involuntarily, and I let out a shriek, not daring to utter anything more, silencing the cries that were at the tip of my tongue. I knew better than to show any signs of weakness. 5 years later, and everything was still the same, just how I remembered it. I opened my eyes, slowly meeting his gaze this time. His dark gray eyes blared in fury, and I knew this slap was only the start of it. "Who on earth do you think you are?" he asked, bobbing his head to the side, his brows drawn together in rage. The answer to the question was really simple. In Moonlight Pack, I was a nobody. It hurt to even think it, but it was true. "You seem to forget that you're nobody here, Bella." He took a step towards me, and I took one back. "You seem to have forgotten that I took pity on you and raised you." He raised his voice an octave higher, the suddenness of it causing me to flinch. "All I have asked of you in return was to get married to the soon-to-be alpha of Carteret-Mouth Pack, and you dare to call off your engagement with him." He thundered, the veins in his forehead ticking like time bombs waiting to explode. I remained silent, waiting for the remaining of the verbal lashing before he would continue with the physical ones. It was a routine I was well accustomed with. "You seem to forget that you are wolfless, useless. Max was doing you a favor. Heck, he was doing this pack a favor by agreeing to marry a wolfless pack, and you seem to think you're the moon goddess because how much more stupid can you be?" "I have a wolf." I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell them that I wasn't useless. I wanted to show them that I was just as powerful, that I held just as much worth as they did, but I couldn't. With Nina's reminder constantly ringing in my mind, I let out a sigh. It wasn't yet time. "I have never asked anything of you. All I want is that you get married to Max, and I'm sorry, but you don't have a choice." The anger in his eyes was suddenly replaced with mischief. It unsettled me. "I have a choice," I replied, my voice unwavering. I wasn't going to let him decide who I spent the rest of my life with. I had already been through so much, and now I deserved to be happy. I watched as the corner of his lips tugged up into a smile, one that was daunting. He took another 2 steps towards me, and this time I didn't move. "Of course you do, Bella. I can see that you've grown wings." He was referring to how I had spoken up for myself, and I fought the urge to roll my eyes. "But," he drawled, his gaze scrutinating, "you either marry Max or I cut off Cora's medical expenses." I stumbled backwards a bit like I was shoved, my eyes widening in shock. "You can't do that. Cora was his wife. How could one man be so cruel? She needed this treatment to survive, to live. He would rather let her die if I refused to marry Max for his selfish reasons." "Oh, yes, I can. You've been away for 5 years and you lost your memory already? I'm the alpha of this pack, and I do as I chooses." His hit his chest as he spoke, his eyes never leaving mine. I had just graduated from medical college. I didn't have nearly enough to fund Mother's health expenses. I let out a sigh. "You will marry Max? Am I clear?" I said nothing, and he moved closer in a bid to intimidate me into saying yes, but I still remained silent. "Are you mute?" He simultaneously raised his hand to slap me, but was interrupted when somebody spoke. "Alpha, Max is here with his future Luna." Future Luna. It was that woman. I had expected Gray to be upset. Anything but the genuine smile that was now dancing on his lips. Weird. He stepped away from me, straightening out the invisible creases on his outfit before following his beta out of the room with me, curiously trailing behind them. "Alpha Gray." Max acknowledged as we walked into the room, a ghost smile playing on his lips, and for a second his eyes met mine, before he very quickly looked away. As each second passed, it was becoming really hard to fight the urge to lurch forward and claw out his eyes. The bastard. Gray smiled easily, pulling Max into a hug. "It's really nice to see you again." "Likewise," Max replied, pulling the woman he brought along, the very same woman, to his side, his hands resting firmly on her waist as he pretended like she was absent in the room. I hated to admit that it still stung to watch him with someone else. "This is Layla, your future Luna." Gray completed the sentence for him, and I couldn't help but wonder how he knew her. My forehead creased as I tried to figure out what new shenanigan was going on here. "Bella, Prepare some fruits and cups of tea for our guests." Gray spoke without sparing me a glance. I sighed for the umpteenth time and headed for the kitchen. I filled a pot with water and set it on the cooker, and as I turned around to continue cutting watermelons, I spotted Layla standing at the entrance of the kitchen. "How pathetic is it that you're a slave in your own pack?" I didn't give her a reply. Instead, I focused on cutting the watermelons into perfect squares. The sound of her heels colliding with the tiled floors was the indication that she was slowly approaching me. "It must hurt to see me with the man you love." She continued to ramble on. "It must hurt to know that I'm the true Luna of the pack and not you." I wanted to tell her so badly that she was so desperate for my leftover, because clearly I had rejected Max, but I couldn't. "You don't know me and I don't know you, yet you feel so threatened by me?" I asked the slender and tall blonde with my head slightly bobbed to the side. "You are the one who's supposed to be jealous of me," she retorted defensively, and a smile involuntarily touched my lips. "And it drives you crazy that I'm not," I replied, letting my shoulders rise and fall in a casual shrug. On cue, she held my arm in a tight grip, standing toe-to-toe with me, and in a flash, the anger in her eyes was replaced with an emotion I couldn't name. Something sinister. "It doesn't have to be like this, Bella. I'm only trying to be nice," she said in an oddly loud voice, leaving me confused because there were only two of us in the room. She didn't need to be so loud. One moment she was standing toe-to-toe with me, and the next, she fell to the ground with a loud thud, a shriek eluding her lips. I hadn't pushed her. Instead, she threw herself on the ground. In that moment, Max and Gray walked in, and I finally understood the picture Layla was trying to paint. She succeeded. Max crouched down, and Gray came at me with anger-filled eyes. He latched his fingers around my throat, squeezing. I shut my eyes closed, gasping for air. "How dare you humiliate my guests?" His voice resonated through the quote kitchen, and from the corner of my eyes, I could see Layla's victorious smirk. I wanted to speak, to tell them that I hadn't done anything, but I was struggling to breathe with the way Gray was restricting my airways, strangling me. "Guards!" he called out, and in a matter of seconds, 3 men that looked larger than life itself trooped into the kitchen. "Lock her up in a cell," he told them, hauling me at their feet. "Maybe spending a day or 20 in there will teach you a lesson for good." I was pulled up from the ground and pulled mercilessly by 2 hefty men, with my legs barely touching the floor, to a cell in the dungeon. "Sst, Bella." I blinked my eyes open, my vision still hazy from the deep sleep I had fallen into. "Bella." The voice called again, and I turned in the direction of the sound to see a shadowy figure crouched down at the other side of the cell. I hesitantly moved towards the shadow, and when I was close enough, she took of the shawl. It was Cora. "Mother," I whispered, reaching out to hold her hand. "What are you doing here?" "I came to get you out," she replied and shook my head in defiance. "No, I can't let you get in trouble because of me." "I'm not going to get into trouble, Bella, but you need to leave here as soon as possible," she said, rising to her feet. Then she unlocked the cell. When I came out, she handed me a phone and a purse. "It's money. It's not a lot, but it's something," she said, and a tear dropped from my eyes. I pulled her into a hug, and she hugged me back, Reuben G. her hands over the length of my back. "Get out of here," she urged, but I was reluctant. Gray won't kill me, Bella." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I promise I'll be back to get you out of this hellhole." And with that, I ran without looking back. Just as soon as I left the territories, my phone buzzed in my hand. I took a look, and it was an unknown number. Reluctantly, I hit the green icon and raised it to my ear. "Hello," I spoke, my voice almost a whisper. "Hey, Bella, it's your brother speaking. There's a private jet close by to pick you up. It's time for you to come back home." Before I could ask questions, the line went dead. What new game is life playing with me? Bella's POV. In the dark of the night, the stars shimmered in the sky, but my hope dimmed. My fists clenched as the echoes of the phone call lingered in my mind. Fury simmered just below my calm exterior, a familiar flame that kept me on edge. I didn't trust the voice on the other end of the line, yet I knew I couldn't turn down any chance to grow stronger. Weakness and pretending to be weak had always been my strong suit. Hide everything to be safe, to be protected. I learned the hard way. I hated it so much, but I had no choice. I never chose. The betrayal, the feeling of being unwanted seeped into my bones from my old pack, my old family. My lips curled up in disdain. Where is my family? Now why would I trust someone I had never met? I inhaled and exhaled slowly. The possibility that these people might help me save my Luna, my mother, was too precious to ignore, even if it meant aligning with strangers. With each step closer to their realm, my pulse quickened. I was wary, but I also felt an inexplicable pull. Something was waiting. Maybe this was it. Maybe I could finally be happy, or maybe this was a trap and I was going back to the hellhole I crawled out from. However, a flicker of hope boomed in my heart. What if I could afford the medical expenses and save her? They were almost there and my breath hitched. When the private jet touched down nearby, its sleek, intimidating presence left me speechless. I had never seen anything so opulent. The Moonlight Pack, my former pack, didn't even have the budget for decent training facilities, let alone a private jet. In its gleaming reflection, I felt a small part of myself, a part that still longed for belonging and comfort, crack open, and I fought it back. This was not my world, but for now, it had to be. Cora always managed to make me feel wanted and accepted, but a part of me, deep down, knew that I didn't belong, but I had nowhere else to go. There was a different kind of pain from watching everything you could have had, but never being able to reach out to it and grab it. As I climbed aboard, I took a deep breath, apologizing silently to my wolf. She was my companion, yet an entity as enigmatic as the moon, had kept me company through these lonely years. I was fiercely protective of it, knowing how precious and rare a bond like ours was. Yet, here I was, thrusting both myself and my wolf into the spotlight. I half expected anger in return, but instead I felt a gentle warmth, a sense of understanding. The soft tug eased my heart. What would I do without her? It's all right, the wolf's voice echoed faintly within me. We're stronger now. I trust you. I exhaled, comforted. Over 2 years of intense training had taught both of us to hide our true nature. It was a necessity if I was going to make it in New York as a regular werewolf. Unseen, blending into the crowd, the wolf sympathized with my struggle, but as always, remained stubbornly private, refusing to reveal its full identity. I had given up trying to coax it out. The truth would come when it was ready. However, maybe if I tried one more time, she might tell me. You can at least tell me your name. Or do you want me to call you Strawberry Shortcake? I said internally, and the wolf was silent, but if I could see it, I was sure it rolled its eyes. Even with the sense of the unknown living with me, talking to me, it was better than anything. It made me calm and not feel like I was alone, which was strange because I conversed with the darkness. I sighed. When we finally touched down on unfamiliar ground, a woman awaited me on the runway, looking both ethereal and strikingly familiar. She was dressed simply, yet there was a sense of authority radiating from her, a beauty that had a timeless, almost haunting quality. This woman wasn't just anyone. I could feel it, a primal certainty down to my bones. But who was she? In her presence, I felt small, inconsequential. The woman was so put together and powerful that I almost recoiled. I was truly pitiful sometimes. I hesitated, wanting to ask 100 questions, but as my voice found the courage to speak, I felt the woman's sharp gaze trace the bruises on my skin, the cuts that had barely healed, and the tattered clothes that clung to me like a reminder of the life I had left behind. The scars made me insecure of who I was because deep down, I didn't know who that person was. I had everything I could dream of, and then it disappeared into the air like smoke. I wasn't blind anymore, and each wound showed the price I had to pay to remove the blindfold. The woman didn't flinch, didn't utter a single word of pity. Instead, she gestured toward a luxury car waiting nearby. "We're going to get you taken care of," she said softly but firmly. Before I could protest, she was swept away. Our first stop was a luxurious boutique, the kind of place where everything shimmered and glowed under soft lights, making you feel like you were stepping into a dream. I halted in my tracks. I didn't belong here. The glances from the other VIP customers told me as much. Their sneers and disdain masked by their sophisticated faces made me nauseous. I wanted to bolt out of here, run away and not look back. Even dressed in designer clothes, I felt out of place. I had barely taken 2 steps inside when a sneering voice sliced through the air. "Who let her in here?" A tall woman draped in silk sneered, looking at me with scorn. A ripple of laughter followed from her companions, and my skin prickled. I felt my wolf stir, growling under the surface, but I suppressed it. They were right. I was no less than a dog. Tears stung my eyes, but I wouldn't cry. The thrift stores, or what do they call it, are at the flea market. I'm sure you would find something of your caliber, if you do have caliber there. Another woman spoke in a dignified, accented voice which differed from the nasty things her words inferred. "Security! We have a thief in the shop. Please escort her out before she steals something." Oh my. The women gasped and I clenched my fists. How could people be so cruel? My jaw clenched. My mother, the woman who still hadn't introduced herself, caught the exchange, her face hardening. Without missing a beat, she raised a perfectly manicured hand and snapped her fingers. Staff members rushed over, looking concerned. "Escort them out," she commanded, her voice calm but laced with authority. When they hesitated, her voice turned icy. "If BM Corporation has any business with these women, it's done. Now leave." My eyes widened. It was one thing to demand they be thrown out, but severing corporate ties in an instant? Only someone of immense influence could make such a move, and effortlessly at that. A ripple of realization settled over me, heavier than anything I'd experienced in a long time. This woman, my mother, was no ordinary werewolf. She was Luna Olive, former Luna of the largest pack in New York, the Nightshade Pack. Luna Olive glanced at me, softening my expression. "No one disrespects my daughter." The words hung in the air, and I felt a mixture of warmth and disbelief. My daughter. It was the first time I'd heard it, and though I wasn't one to believe in sentiment easily, something about it felt right. No wonder she was dressed impeccably, and her aura demanded respect. As they walked from store to store, I tried to absorb everything, from the strange power my mother wielded to the eyes that followed them. New clothes and accessories were carefully selected for me, each item seemingly chosen to rebuild my image. To Luna Olive, this wasn't just a shopping trip, it was a transformation. But the truth was, could I be transformed? Something in me was in a way broken. I had no one and nothing, and I wasn't sure that would change by trying on new dresses, but Luna Olive was adamant that it would. I could only follow behind her, my head lowered. "Don't slouch. You are my cub, and you need to act like it." She didn't look back as she admonished me, but my back straightened immediately. With each new dress, a new version of me seemed to emerge, one that was bold, sophisticated, even regal. It was a side of me I had never had the luxury to indulge, but one I felt curiously comfortable in. My wolf, who had been so wary, almost purred at the attention, basking in the luxury. My mother catered for me even though she didn't smile or dote, but she was attentive, sure to not make me uncomfortable. But with every fitting, every approving look my mother gave, I felt a strange tug at the back of my mind. My wolf sensed it too. There was something unsettling about how swiftly my life was changing, as if forces far greater than me were orchestrating it all. It was too good to be true. Everything could be gone in the blink of an eye. "Why now?" I asked, finally breaking the silence as they left the last store. "Why have you come for me now?" Luna Olive turned to me, her expression unreadable. "It's time you understood your legacy. There are things you need to know." We made our way to a penthouse in Manhattan, a sleek modern fortress with panoramic views of the city. For me, the view was breathtaking. Yet as I stood in the heart of this opulent haven, she felt a pang of isolation. I was miles away from my old life, from everything familiar, thrust into a world I didn't understand. But my mother's presence, though stoic, offered a strange sense of comfort. Luna Olive poured herself a glass of wine, then glanced at me, a glimmer of pride in her eyes. "Do you know who your father is?" I shook my head, caught off guard by the question. "He's Alpha Luthor, one of the strongest, most feared alphas in the nation," my mother said, "and he doesn't know about you." My heart skipped a beat. Alpha Luthor was a legend in the werewolf world, known for his ruthlessness and power. It was said that no one dared cross him. The thought of being connected to someone like him was overwhelming. That wasn't true. He couldn't be the father to a girl like me. I swallowed, playing with my fingers. "He doesn't know about me?" I repeated, struggling to grasp the idea. "No. Luna Olive's voice softened. It was safer that way, for both of us. As my mother explained the circumstances that had forced her to hide my existence, I felt my wolf stir with curiosity. I could sense my mother's truthfulness, but questions nagged at me, questions I wasn't ready to ask. That night, alone in my new room, I felt a wave of confusion. I was the daughter of an alpha and a Luna, a lineage that held immense power and responsibility. Yet I knew nothing of it. My head was spinning with all the new information. Only a few hours ago, I was the adopted daughter of a man who used me as a tool. Now I'm the daughter of the most powerful Luna. In a way, I felt like I didn't deserve it. Staring into the darkness of the night, it was so familiar, and I found myself drifting to sleep. The dark a lullaby that only I could hear. Bella's POV. Good morning, Luna. I curtsied as I entered into the opulent dining area, my eyes scanning through the room. It was an open hall space, the walls painted in a pretty ivory color with gold lines intricately forming beautiful designs. The elegant chandeliers hanging over the table casted a golden glow, making the whole dining area look like a scene from a Disney movie. Bella? My mother's voice had me turning my attention back to the table. Everybody had paused, watching my warily. A nervous smile touched my lips. Have a sit, she spoke curtly, gesturing to the empty sit beside her. I sat and a few maids crammed around me, filling my empty plate with food. I had never been treated like this in my entire life, treated like I mattered, and I felt warmth spread in my chest. Once my plate was filled with the most decent meal I had ever had. As I ate, I watched from my peripheral vision as my mother clenched and unclenched her fists, her brows drawn together, tension etched on her features. Unsure of what to do, I let my hand rest on hers, and I have it a small squeeze. She turned to look at me. I can't believe those women spoke so badly to you yesterday, she said, and realization dawned on me. It's really fine, I said, giving her a smile of realization. It's not fine. She pushed her food away, shaking her head. How dare they speak to you like that? She was shouting now. I'm used to it, Mother. I really don't mind. I wanted to calm her down, to assure her that it wasn't so big of a deal, but she wasn't listening. Soon enough, she started gasping for air, and a few people gathered around. She was taken to the hospital, and I couldn't help the way my heart raced with fear. I was here only one day, and so much had already happened. I sighed, pacing from one end of my room to the other, when a knock came on my door. Come in, I replied, and a maid walked in, her hands clasped behind her, and her gaze pinned to the ground. I was being given respect that I never dreamt I would have, and it really felt good. Ma'am, Luna has sent something for you. They're outside with the driver as he has demanded to give them to you in person. She spoke, and I nodded dismissively, fighting the squeal of excitement that was threatening to tear through me. I hurried out to get my gift from the driver. They were shopping bags with the brand of the boutique we visited yesterday encrusted on them. I muttered a quick thank you to the driver and headed inside to check out my new dresses and probably shoes. And who are you? A voice, shrill and piercing spike, and I turned in the direction of the voice to see a woman most like my age, walking towards me. She looked really expensive. Her light brown hair looked really healthy. Her skin dazzled under the lights, and she wore a dress I was sure cost thousands of dollars. I'm Bella, I replied, unsure of what else to say. Her eyes roamed my body, settling on the shopping bags that I was holding. Those must be mine. She wasn't asking. She took a few steps towards me, attempting to take the bags from me, and I stepped backwards. They aren't yours. They're mine. I stated matter-of-factly, and the mocking chuckle that eluded her lips stirred something inside me. Have you looked at yourself in the mirror? You look like a clueless country wolf. You could never afford those. She said and reached for the bags again, but I refused to let them go. My mother got these for me. They aren't yours, I said, staring into her gray eyes that were probably contact lenses. She was trying to intimidate me, but I wasn't going to condone any of it. Now, get the fuck out of my way! I pushed past her, but she gripped my elbow, pulling me back. What a fraud, she spat, her face contorted in disgust. You think you can just walk in here and claim to have a mother here? She rolled her head backwards as a breathy laugh escaped her mouth. What do you think we are? Fools? Let me go, I spoke through gritted teeth. I didn't like this woman one bit. "Get out of the fucking house, imposter," she said, pulling me through the doors, and suddenly I was pulled away from her grip. The expression on her face transformed from disgust to emotionless in seconds as she set her eyes on the man who had rescued me from her brutality. His lips were drawn into a thin line, his eyes watching the mean girl with one brow slightly quirked upwards. "Alpha," she acknowledged him, bowing her head in respect. Realizing that he was the current alpha of this pack, I did the same. "Harper." He said her name, and the silence that followed was loud, unsettling. "What sort of behavior are you exhibiting?" His voice was cold and detached, and Harper was clearly shaken by it. I fought the smile that threatened to spread on my lips. "I'm sorry, Alpha. You seem to have forgotten that you are only just a guest here." He cut her off, and she raised her head, her gaze meeting mine. "And so is she." She was referring to me. "You're wrong. This is her home," he said, and I really liked the sound of that. My home. "I'm sorry." Her face fell, but her apology didn't sound genuine. Not a little bit. "Now leave, and say nothing of Bella's presence here to that woman," he said with finality in his tone, and Harper nodded, walking out the door. Oh, how the tables turned. "I'm sorry about that," he said with a smile that was a maddening contrast from the look that he had on while he spoke Harper. "It's fine," I smiled. "Darling," another woman spoke as she walked across the room to where she stood. The alpha wrapped a hand around her waist, and she giggled when he placed a kiss on her cheeks. It was obviously Luna. Just when I thought they had totally forgotten my existence, her eyes met mine. "Oh my, you must be Bella," she gushed, moving closer and taking my hands in hers. "You are so beautiful." "Thank you, Luna," I smiled. "Oh, you can call me Amelia," she replied, and I just smiled, unsure of what to say. All of this was new to me. The niceness, the luxury, the respect. "Darling, I have to meet with someone right now." The alpha spoke to his wife, slipping his hands in his pockets. "I'll leave y'all to do whatever women do." He smiled and turned on his heels. "Let's go to your room," she said, urging me up the stairs. "I'm sorry we couldn't be here when you arrived yesterday. We just arrived at the pack this morning," she said as we climbed to the top of the stairs, even though she owed me no explanations. I nodded, smiling politely as we took a right turk, the sounds of our footsteps echoing through the corridors. We got to my room and we settled on the bed. "I hope the maids are making it comfortable for you," she asked, and I nodded. "Yes, I'm loving it here." "Great, so how have you been? You know when you were away?" she asked, and I felt that familiar pang in my chest as I remembered. "It's really a sore topic for me," I replied truthfully, fondling with my fingers. "It's fine if you don't want to talk about it," she said, and I could see the honesty in her eyes. I suddenly felt like telling her, so I started. "I've lived with the Alpha and Luna of Moonlight Pack all my life, since I was 5. I don't remember anything from before then." I continued, explaining to Amelia how I was abused and maltreated growing up, and how I was no different from a slave there. I told her about Cora and how she was the only person that cared about me. I told her about how I was treated when everybody thought I was wolfless. I told her about school and about Max and how he cheated on me on my graduation day and the things he said about me. I told her how Mason beat me up that night because I called off my engagement with Max, how he locked me up and threw me in a cell, and how Cora found me and helped me out, and how I was finally able to reach here. "You have been through so much," she said, holding my hands in hers and caressing it as tears rolled down her cheeks. My vision was blurred with tears. I blinked and let the tears roll down my cheeks. In one swift move, she gathered me in her arms, hugging me, and for the first time in a long time, I cried. A few minutes later, a knock came on the door, and the Alpha walked in with another man. He was tall, had broad shoulders and a muscular physique, and would look really intimidating if he didn't have a small smile playing on his lips. Are we interrupting?" he asked, and his wife was quick to debunk it. "This is Alpha Kai. He just flew in from Europe," he introduced, and the tall, muscular man stretched out his hands for a handshake. "It's nice to meet you." He sounded like melted butter. His voice was deep, smooth, and soothing, my lips involuntarily stretching into a smile. I put my hand in his, and the spark of electricity that ran through my veins caused me to look up, our eyes meeting. A deep hum of connection vibrated through me, resonating in parts of my soul that I thought were now dormant. In that instant, I knew he was my second chance, Kai. Mabel was the only woman I had ever loved. I couldn't tell if it was her piercing blue eyes, or her voice, or her smile, or if it was how perfect she was and how she was easily mine that made me love her as much as I did. The thought of her sent light pangs through my chest, reminding me of the void that has been present since she died 5 years ago. The most painful part of it was that I was on a business trip when she suddenly lost her life to heart failure. I wasn't there when she needed me the most. Until this day, I've thrown myself into an abyss of work, growing my empire in England after giving up on the idea of ever finding another mate. But in this moment, when Bella placed her hands in my extended one, time froze. I felt that familiar spark. My wolf howling was the confirmation I needed. She is my second chance. I suppressed the groan that threatened to spill from my lips. Fuck. Our eyes met, and I know she felt it too. The strong urge to pick her up, throw her over my shoulders, and take her to my bed, kiss her, unravel her, and do things to her surged through me, and it took every restraint I had in me to fight it off. Moreover, this wasn't right. I couldn't do this to Mabel. I couldn't disrespect her. When Ralph spoke to me about her earlier, with the pity and all other emotions in his eyes and voice, one would think she was broken, scattered. She was a far cry from the picture of her that I had painted in my head. "We'll leave you two to speak. I'll be back with snacks," Amelia said, cutting through the palpable tension in the room as she pulled her husband away. "Do I keep standing, or will you ask me to sit?" I asked, and she let out a breathy laugh that sent tingles down my spine. "You can sit, of course," she said with a smile, patting down on the space beside her. I moved towards her, plopping down on the soft surface. "Now what?" she asked when after a few seconds. "Well, we can stop pretending that we didn't feel that," I replied, and she smiled shyly, tucking her hair behind her ear. "Or didn't you feel the connection?" "I did," she affirmed, nodding her head. "But I'll be honest with you." I turned towards her, clasping my hands together. "My wife died 5 years ago, and I'm not ready to mate with any other person just yet," I said, searching her eyes in hopes that she'd understand where I was coming from. "He cheated on me, and I rejected him only a few days ago. I'm also not ready to move on yet," she replied, and I released a breath I didn't know I was holding. Way easier than I thought it'd be. "I'm sorry about that." I offered condolences, and she smiled sheepishly before muttering, "It's fine. I'm over it." "So what are we going to do about it?" I asked her, feeling a little less tense. "What about what?" Her forehead was creased in confusion. "Our mate bonds. I'm sure Ralph and Amelia noticed it, and that's why they left us all alone in the room." I explained, and her mouth formed the O-shake as realization dawned on her. She then went on to stroke her chin as she stared into nothingness, her feet lightly tapping against the floor. "I think I might have an idea," she said after a while. "All ears," I urged her on. "Well, we could pretend," she started. "We could get together, but pretend to be a couple in public, and then in private, we can just go about each other's businesses without the intimacy and all of that." She finished, her shoulders rising and falling in a casual shrug. "So, you're willing to do this with me because you trust me?" I asked, my eyes peering into her hazel orbs. "I don't even know you," she retorted almost immediately, and I couldn't help the throaty laughter that spilled from my lips. "Exactly," I affirmed. "So let's make it a signed contract then," she suggested. Impressed by her wits and confidence, and of course her mastermind plan, I agreed on the spot. So in the contract, there would be clauses that, her voice faded off as I took her in for the first time today. Jet black hair that fell over her shoulders, hazel almond-shaped eyes, a cute button nose, perfect bow-shaped pink lips, and the way her skin gleamed underneath the illumination white lights. One look at her body, and even though she was seated, her curves were very visible. I felt blood rush to my groin, and before I could stop myself, I pressed my lips against hers, shutting her up. Her lips were just as soft as I had imagined them to be, and just as I was about to slip my tongue in her mouth, she pushed me off with strength I didn't think she had, her palm colliding with my cheek in a resounding slap. "Well, I deserved that," I said, the corner of my lips tugging up in a smirk. "What on earth do you think you are doing?" she asked with furrowed brows, and I wondered why I found it strangely alluring. "I have to admit that controlling my emotions would be harder than I thought," I spoke, and I saw she shift uncomfortably before rising to her feet. "I think I should leave," she announced, and before I could say anything else, she was out the door. I heaved a sigh. Funny how all it took was one mate bond to ruffle the font I spent years putting up. I wondered if she was at the verge of losing all her control just like I was. I wondered if she would pretend that I didn't have an effect on her just like she had an effect on me. Her lips moved against mine. She kissed me back, and maybe if I hadn't tried to slip my tongue in her mouth, it would have lasted longer. I wondered if she would pretend like the kiss didn't happen. I wondered how it took only one kiss to make me want to make her mine. It was now like a driving force, pushing me against my will towards her. I paced the length of the room, trying to control the urges that were douring through me, trying to push away the thoughts that clawed at my mind, thoughts of the things I would do to her, trying to fight the need to want to own her. Fuck. The more I tried, the harder it became to suppress the feelings and thoughts. I clenched and unclenched my fists. I needed to be out of this room before anybody came looking for me, but I needed to calm myself down for a bit. I knew right then, and then what I wanted, and I was sure I would be able to keep myself from going after her. She was perfect. Her face, her hair, her eyes, her body. She was fucking perfect, and she was mine. I was going to do anything it took to make sure that she belonged to me. I'm willing to do anything that I have to, and it wouldn't be long before she's completely mine. I muttered to myself, and the soft creaking of the door announced a presence. I shifted my head to the side to see her standing at the entrance with a sky smile spread across her lips. I just laid my plans bare to Serafina, Bella. The sting from Kale's kiss still lingered on my lips as I slammed my bedroom door shut. My heart raced, pounding so loudly I was certain that people outside could hear it. My fingertips brushed against my mouth, and I clenched my fists. How could he kiss me? And worse, how could I let him? I paced the room, trying to make sense of the electric pull I'd felt. He was my second chance. That much was clear from the moment our hands touched. But I wasn't ready to open myself up to another mate bond, not after everything. My wolf, however, had other plans. "This is different, Bella," she whispered, her voice a mix of urgency and warmth. "You can't ignore it." I walked to my bed, exhaustion seeping into my bones. After curling up for a few minutes, I tried to shake off the heaviness weighing me down. I put my hair up, securing it in a messy bun with an elastic band. I needed to do something, anything, to distract myself from the mess my life had become. Grabbing my laptop, I logged into the job listings portal and began to search for internships. If I was to start over, it had to be on my terms. I picked up my phone and called my mentor, Professor Eliza Harding. Hearing her warm, familiar voice was like finding an anchor in a storm. "Bella, it's been too long," Professor Harding said, her voice bubbling with enthusiasm. "I've been wondering when you'd reach out. How are you, dear?" "I'm surviving." Good, she said gently. "It's okay to just survive." "Well, I wanted to touch base with you about my career plans. I've been thinking a lot, and I'm ready to focus on finding an internship." Her response was immediate. Pure joy resonated through the phone lines. "An internship! Ah, finally!" she exclaimed. I could almost hear her beaming smile. "I've been waiting for this moment. Tell me, what kind of opportunities are you looking for?" Her words tumbled out rapid fire, enthusiasm pouring through the receiver. I pictured her sitting at her desk, scribbling notes on a pad. "I'm open to various options," I replied, "but ideally something in research or patient interaction." Professor Harding's murmurs of encouragement punctuated my explanation. "I've got just the thing," she said, papers shuffling in the background. "There's a prestigious hospital with an excellent internship program. Highly competitive, but I think you'd be a great fit." Her words sparked excitement within me, and I sat up straighter, anticipation building. "Oh my goodness, that was fast." I chuckled, feeling grateful. "I won't let you down." "I'm thrilled to hear that, Bella. You've always had so much potential. In fact, the timing couldn't be better. The department is hosting a graduation ceremony next week, and I'd love for you to give a speech." The idea of standing in front of so many people made my stomach twist. I'd love to. Excellent. Let's meet tomorrow to go over everything. For the first time in what felt like forever, I allowed myself a small smile. I felt truly happy. But as soon as I hung up, my phone buzzed again, and my fragile sense of hope shattered. Bella, came the cold, sneering voice of Alpha Gray. My blood ran cold. I was wondering when you'd crawl out of whatever rock you're hiding under, I spat, refusing to let him hear the fear beneath my bravado. His laugh was cruel, like the scraping of metal on stone. Leaving L.A.? That's bold, even for you, and you didn't even say goodbye. I'm sure you didn't call me to tell me how much you miss me already. I snorted, rolling my eyes. You think you can run away from the dungeon and go scot-free? I could picture his brows drawn together, his lips turned down in a frown as he spoke. His voice was cold as ice, but for some reasons, it didn't have that gripping effect on me. For the first time in a long time, I felt free from his clutch. The memory of slipping away from that suffocating pack, taking the chance to escape, tightened in my chest. I shut my eyes closed, pushing in the imagery to the far corner of my mind. What do you want, Gray? I asked. You've developed an attitude overnight. His voice dripped with contempt. I'm sure you didn't call me to engage in petty talks. I scoffed. I did not. The iciness of his voice was piercing. I wondered what new plot was up his sleeves. If you have nothing to say, you might as well get off my phone. I rolled my eyes. I was sure he wanted something. But what? Threatening me won't do you any good, Bella. The nonchalance in his voice was triggering, but unfortunately he was on the other side of the phone. Unless you want her to die? My heart skipped a beat. Mother? What the fuck did you do to her? I asked, my temples throbbing as I started to feel a headache coming. I haven't done anything to her. I could hear the smile in his voice. Yet, he added, causing my blood to run cold. What do you want? I was panicking, my fingers trembling as I now struggled to hold the phone against my ear. Gray was a terrible person. He wouldn't hesitate to hurt Cora if it meant getting what he wanted. He laughed, a shrill sound that sent shivers down my spine. I missed hearing that fear in your voice. Tell me what the fuck it is that you want, I shouted into the phone. Impatient much? He was teasing me now, stepping in my nerves. I hated it so much. I hated him so much. You can't refuse what I ask. Your mother's life is at risk, and I hope you understand that. I swallowed the lump that formed in my throat. Yes, I replied. Bella. I opened my eyes, the sun peeking through the curtains assaulting my vision, banishing the remnants of sleep. The sunlight illuminated the room, and I stretched on the bed, its plushness welcoming me. It still felt really unreal, waking up in a soft bed in an enormous room. I sat on the bed for a few seconds, my mind reeling from last night's conversation with Gray. Why on earth would I give you $5 million? I asked, disbelief tainting my tone. Cora's expenses. The non-chain his voice was triggering, but unfortunately he was on the other side of the phone. Unless you want her to die? My heart skipped a beat. I don't even have that amount of money, and you know it. I raised my voice slightly, clenching and unclenching my fist. Of course you do. I could hear the smile in his voice. Evil, conniving. You left here on a private jet. Did you think I wouldn't find out? Fuck, did he know where I was? It isn't mine, I replied truthfully. That feeling, that suffocating feeling that I thought I had finally left behind, came right back. It felt like all the air in my lungs was being squeezed out. I suddenly didn't feel comfortable in my own skin anymore. The temperature in the room had dropped drastically. Of course it isn't yours. You're only a peasant. How could you afford a private jet? His tone was mocking. You probably have a sugar daddy that's sponsoring your whole existence. No wonder you survived 5 years away from the pack in that stupid university. My hands trembled with rage. Go to hell. He couldn't just talk down to me like that. I worked hard, struggled to keep myself alive while I studied at the university, and just because I didn't beg at his feet for survival, he feels he has the right to talk to me like this? Bullshit. Oh, Bella, you're so predictable, he said, feigning disappointment. Not everyone can be like Stella, graceful, loyal, noble. You're just a tool, useful until you're not. It made the alarms in my head go off, but I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of hearing me break. If you're done trying to degrade me, Gray, Go play alpha elsewhere. Your adoptive mother is still under my care, he said coldly, the words twisting like a knife. If you want to keep her alive, you'll pay. It's that simple. The line went dead and I stared at the phone, my breath caught in my throat. Gray had never seen us as anything more than pawns to be used and discarded. The reality of my supposed freedom came crashing down around me. I had escaped the pack's suffocating hold, but as long as my adoptive mother remained there, I would never truly be free. It was suffocating. Ugh. What on earth am I going to do? How do I help Cora? I whispered to myself, fisting the bedsheets. I hated that I felt so helpless. So much I wanted to do, so much I would do for Cora, but only if I could. I let out a groan of frustration, tugging lightly in my hair when her voice resonated through me. Relax, Bella. You have to stay strong. I sighed. Mia was right. I needed to be strong. I needed to somehow get Cora out of that hellhole. She deserved so much better. But how? 5 days ago, I would never have thought that my life would change drastically, that I would find my mother, or rather, that she would find me and I would get to experience a life of comfort. Everything felt surreal to me. I let out a groan, rose from the bed and headed to the bathroom to perform my daily rituals. I brushed my teeth, then I had a hot bath in the soaking tub. I felt like royalty. When I was done, I helped myself out, added a few oils and lotion to my skin, then I slipped into a comfortable piece of clothing, a knee-length straight dress that did absolutely nothing to hug my curves. I sat in front of the well-illuminated vanity mirror. I put my hair in a high ponytail, letting a few strands grant myself, then I added a little touch of makeup, painting my lips a faint shade of pink. When I was all done, I smiled at my reflection in the mirror. I was pleased and I decided to head downstairs for breakfast. But just as I got to the foot of the stairs, somebody bumped into me. "Arr!" She groaned, her face scrunched up in irritation. "What on earth is wrong with you? Are you blind?" she asked, aggression emitting off her in waves. I wasn't going to be pulled into her drama. Not today. "You bumped into me," I replied calmly, watching her nose flare up in anger. "But it's fine. I do want to fight with you," I added, attempting to sidestep her. "You don't want to fight with me yet. You stole my bracelet?" She bobbed her head to the side as a sigh involuntarily escaped my lips. What new drama was this? For some reasons, my life wasn't ever drama-free. I moved into this pack a few days ago, and there's drama already, and she even has a name. "Harper, I didn't take anything from you, and you know it." I spoke with confidence, squaring my shoulders, my gaze on hers unwavering. "Of course you did, Bella." She called my name with immense bitterness, intentionally trying to pick on me, but I was more concerned about what bracelet I had stolen. It's Cartier, and it's extremely expensive and rare. We both know you can't afford a golden bracelet, let alone one from Cartier. "I can't do this back and forth thing with you," I said to her, my tone laced with finality, my brows drawn together. "You don't have to try to sound all brave and confident, you stray country wolf." She raised her voice an octave higher, probably in a bid to gather an audience. "Just return my bracelet. I know you stole it." Her eyes cleaned with mischief, her smile coy and daunting. "I don't have your bracelet," I repeated. "You sure?" She bobbed her head to the side mockingly, and I nodded in response, although I was starting to feel like this was a terrible setup. "Let's go up and check your room." She sounded too confident. She didn't wait for my response before running up the stairs and straight into my bedroom. While looking for her bracelet, she turned the room upside down. She tossed the bed sheets and covers around, pushed down all my cosmetic products from the vanity table, emptied the drawers of the bedside table, and even threw a few of my clothes around. She picked up one of the new bags I received from Luna yesterday and turned it upside down, and to my surprise, a bracelet did fall out of it. A golden bracelet with Cartier encrusted on it. She framed me. Her smile was wide, victorious as she crouched down to pick up the bracelet. "You said you didn't take it." It was a rhetorical question, mocking. "I didn't," I replied, my confidence unwavering. I was done letting people step on me, treat me like I didn't deserve to be treated right. I could stand up for myself, and damn right I would. "You planted it in my room. Now, you dare to put the blame on me?" she said, feigning surprise with her hands sprawled across her chest, her jaw slightly dropping. "You're a thief!" She raised her voice again and balled my hands into fists at my side. "Shut the fuck up," I shouted right back. "Why should I? You stole from me. That, very much, is clear, and you decide to insult me even after I'm taking pity on you and deciding to let this slide." "Oh, please, Harper. We both know you're only looking for drama to fuel your ego," I replied, and she took a few steps towards me, her chest heaving, and I couldn't understand why on earth she was angered because I'm the victim here. In that moment, Alpha Ralph walked in, stepping in front of me. Harper bowed her head immediately, placing her hands behind her. "What on earth are you doing here?" His voice was cold and detached, different from the one he used while talking to me. "My Alpha, Bella stole my bracelet, and I came to get it back. And even though I'm showing her mercy and letting it slide, she's trying to pick a fight with me by insulting me," she explained. "I did steal her bracelet." My voice was now calm. "She planted it in my bag when we had an argument downstairs the other day, and now she's only embarrassing me to fuel her ego." "Do you have any proof that I planted it in your bag?" she asked, the corner of her lips tugging up in a smirk. "I'm sure the surveillance must have caught it if any such thing happened." Alpha Ralph spoke, turning around to walk out of the room, and we didn't need any special invitations. We followed behind him. In the surveillance room, we spent a few minutes searching, but there was no scene of Harper planting the bracelet in my bag, and by the look on her face, I knew she had tampered with the footage. Stupid woman. "May I?" I asked the technician sitting in front of the keyboard to let me take a seat. He nodded, and I sat in the swivel chair. I typed quickly and easily on the keyboard, my fingers moving swiftly over the keys. Codes appeared on the screen in different colors, causing a smile to touch my lips. The words and symbols were highlighted in various hues: blue for main commands, purple for variables, and gray for notes. What is she doing? Harper sounded scared. It made me a little bit too happy. I think she's trying to recover some deleted footage," the technician replied as he watched me. I didn't miss the awe on his face. "Wait, what?" Harper was terrible mortified. With one final click, the video popped up on the screen, revealing how she snuck let bracelet into my bag. "How much more insolent are you?" Alpha Ralph sounded really upset. He grabbed her wrist and pulled her out to the living room. "Maids! Guards!" His voice echoed through the room, and all the guards and maids in the house trooped out, standing in a queue with heads hanging low. "I do not want to see Harper here anymore. She is no longer welcome here. If anyone sees her snooping around the gates, report to me or be sure to lose your jobs. Am I clear?" "Yes, sir," they nodded. "You can't do this to me," she protested, all the respect an alpha deserved vanishing from her tone. "Oh, yes, I can," Ralph replied her, his voice now calm. "Just wait until Luna sees how you've maltreated me for a stranger," she threatened, and I think I found it funny how oblivious she was to the fact that I held so much more important here than she did. "Luna would throw you out herself when she finds out what you've done to Bella," he replied, his shoulders rising and falling in a casual shrug. He snapped his fingers once, and 2 guards came forwards to escort Harper out. Well, that pain in my ass is now gone, I thought. Ralph dismissed the rest of the maids and guards, stepping towards me with a smile. "I never knew you had great tech skills." My chest swelled with pride. "It's one of my little secrets," I replied, mirroring his expression. "Well, we could most definitely use your help around. You could help improve the system of the company," he said. It took a few seconds, but it finally clicked. He was offering me a job. Oh my, could I possibly ask for an advance payment? Cora's health was really bad, and I couldn't just sit around here and do nothing. "Are you offering me a job?" I asked for clarity. "I am," he confirmed. Is it fine if I get an advance on my payment or something?" I fondled with my fingers as I asked. I could see a pool of questions swimming in his eyes, questions hanging at the tip of his tongue. It caused a wave of embarrassment to course through me. I farted my gaze to the ground. He sighed, retrieving his phone from his pocket, and typed away. When he was done, he put it away, his gaze locking with mine. "I've spoken to my accountant. They'll send you $1 million as soon as possible and then add you to the company's payroll." He explained, and tears blurred my vision. "Thank you, Alpha," I said. "If you need anything, Bella, you can always ask me," he replied, and he only smiled before turning to walk away, leaving me to wonder how he was able to understand me without saying too much. For the first time in my life, I felt seen, and it made me immensely happy. I turned around and headed to the dining room. Luna Amelia was seated there, so I took a seat beside her. She looked really pleased to see me, her lips stretching into a big smile. "Hey, Bella, you look beautiful. How has your morning been going?" My morning was nothing short of hectic, but I didn't tell her that. Instead, I replied, "Really good," and fug into my breakfast. I was starving. Bella, the day had finally come, my graduation, and I was about to deliver my speech. Backstage, my fingers twisted the thin fabric of my gown, knuckles turning white. I closed my eyes, inhaling slowly, trying to calm the fluttering in my chest. These butterflies weren't there this morning when I left, so why are they here now? The muffled voices beyond the curtain was a reminder that all eyes would be on me soon. My heartbeat pounded in my ears, and I wiped my palms against my gown. It was just a speech. But why did I suddenly feel so heavy? "Bella, you're up," someone whispered from the side, and the knot in my stomach tightened. I nodded, barely trusting my voice, and stepped forward. The bright stage lights hit me first, momentarily blinding me. I blinked quickly, focusing on the polished wood beneath my feet as I walked to the podium. The familiar scent of fresh paper and lingering perfume from earlier speakers filled the air. I gripped the edges of the podium to steady myself. As I lifted my gaze, scanning the audience, I felt the floor tilt under me for a moment. Kai, sitting in the front row, watching me with an intensity that made it hard for me to breathe. Why was he here? I swallowed hard, forcing my expression to remain neutral. He definitely didn't need to see how much he unsettled me. I took a slow, calming breath and leaned into the microphone. "Good evening, students, faculty, family, and friends," I began. I delivered my speech effortlessly. Every word flowed out of me with a confidence I didn't even know I had. My gaze swept the audience, and my eyes caught Kai's for what probably was the 100th time during my speech. Why did he keep staring at me like that? Well, I am the one speaking. Practically everyone in that hall was staring at me. Either way, I still felt extremely uncomfortable. I wanted him to stop. And as we move forward, may we always hold on to the lessons we've learned and the strength we've found together, I said, my voice strong and clear to the end. Congratulations to us all. The final words hung in the air for a heartbeat before the room erupted into applause. Loud and overwhelming, filling every corner of the auditorium. I exhaled. I had done it. I stepped back from the podium, offering a small bow to the high table as I went down from the stage. My heart was still pounding, but this time it wasn't from nerves, it was from happiness. I could still feel Kai's eyes on me as I walked down and off the stage, and I had zero interest in seeing or talking to him, so I decided to take the other side of the stage so I wouldn't have to pass by him. I wasn't avoiding him, I was just conserving my energy. Talking to him would surely take a lot of it. Yeah, right. I focused on navigating through the multitude of classmates and well-wishers, smiling and nodding while keeping my distance. If he noticed, he didn't show it, or maybe I just didn't look long enough to find out. Before I could overthink it, my mentor, Professor Harding, approached, her warm smile cutting through the noise. "Congratulations, Bella," she said, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "You did brilliantly." "Thank you," I replied, genuinely touched. She had seen me through some of my hardest moments, and her approval meant more than I could say. "I'd like to discuss your upcoming position at the hospital," she continued, tilting her head in that thoughtful way of hers. "Join me for lunch?" I hesitated for only a moment. Anything to keep my mind off you-know-who. "Of course," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I have to greet a few more. We decided to take the subway. For some reason, Professor Harding enjoyed it more than being in her own car. Something about experiencing the subtleties of life. I wondered if all professors were eccentric like that." When we arrived at the restaurant, I paused to take it in. It was the kind of place you'd see in glossy magazines, the epitome of luxury, with sleek marble floors and crystal chandeliers that refracted light like a million tiny stars. Waiters and waitresses moved with precision, dressed in impeccable black suits, carrying silver trays like it was an art. The air was thick with the scent of freshly baked bread, exotic spices, and the low murmur of polite conversation. As we walked through the restaurant's elegant entrance, I was internally focused on my excitement of the opportunity I was given. This was supposed to be a celebration of everything I'd worked for, but the feeling of accomplishment quickly soured when I noticed Alpha, Max, and Layla sitting at a table in the heart of the room. My breath caught in my chest, a cold dread creeping up my spine. I hadn't seen them in months, not since everything fell apart, and the last thing I wanted was to cross paths with them now. I tried to slip past quietly, to be invisible in the midst of all the affluent restaurant goers around me. But as if sensing my presence, Max's head snapped up, his eyes narrowing with a mix of irritation and disdain. He rose from his seat with the kind of commanding presence that always drew attention, and in an instant, all eyes were on us. "Did you follow me here, Bella?" His voice was cold, laced with accusation and a touch of contempt. It carried just enough volume to draw whispers from the nearby tables. My jaw clenched. "I didn't even know you'd be here," I managed, keeping my tone steady despite already starting to feel embarrassed. Max crossed his arms over his broad chest, his lip curling in a sneer. "I've told you before, I only want to be with my mate." The words struck like a slap, echoing loudly in the hush that followed. Even some of the waitstaff had paused. This was so humiliating. Layla leaned back in her chair with a cat-like smile, as if savoring every second of my discomfort. "Bella, darling," she cooed, each word a dagger coated in silk. "Are you really still trying to stay relevant?" She gestured lazily to the ornate surroundings. "Places like this aren't exactly your usual, are they? Tell me, did you plan to leave quietly before the bill arrived? Freeloading is beneath even you." I stood frozen, every nerve in my body taut with embarrassment. The room felt colder suddenly, as if all the warmth had been sucked out of it. But before I could retort, Layla's expression shifted, her eyes lighting up with fake generosity. "Come," she said with a theatrical sigh, patting the empty chair beside her. "Sit with us. I insist." Her voice was sweet, sickeningly so, as though she were offering me a gift rather than twisting the knife deeper. Before I could formulate a response to Layla's jabs, a waiter approached our table. He was impeccably dressed, every inch of him exuding professionalism. His gaze landed on me, and with a polite, practiced smile, he turned his head. "Miss Bella, I presume?" he asked, his tone formal. I nodded, unsure of where this was going, but grateful for any shift in focus. "Our manager has requested that you be escorted to one of our private rooms." For a second, I couldn't process his words. Private room? This wasn't what I expected in the least. I opened my mouth, about to politely decline, when I caught sight of Layla's expression. Shock quickly morphed into outrage. The satisfaction of seeing her mask slip was almost too tempting to resist. "That's impossible," Layla snapped. She leaned forward, her manicured nails tapping against the table with barely restrained fury. "I spoke with your staff myself. There are no private rooms available today. Isn't that right?" The waiter turned to her, his smile never wavering. "Indeed, madam," he said, the words clipped and precise. "The private rooms are, as you were informed, reserved for patrons of a certain standing." He glanced back at me, his eyes softening ever so slightly. "Miss Bella is, of course, an exception." The air around us seemed to grow heavier. Layla's face flushed crimson, her perfect composure cracking in real time. "How dare you?" But the waiter wasn't done. He straightened. "As for your continued patronage, I must regretfully inform you that, per management's orders, you and your companion are no longer welcome at this establishment." For a moment, the world seemed to freeze. Max's eyes darkened, his jaw tightening as he processed the implications. Layla, meanwhile, spluttered. "Blacklisted?" She spat, as if the word burned her tongue. "You can't be serious." The waiter didn't blink. "Our standards are non-negotiable," he said, a hint of irritation beneath his civility. "We have a reputation to maintain." When they stormed out, the waiter turned back to me, his demeanor softening. "If you'll follow me, Miss Bella," he said, gesturing in front of him. I had barely taken 2 steps toward the private room when I felt the familiar rush of movement, a body colliding with mine. I didn't even have time to brace myself before I was caught by strong arms, my balance shaking as I looked up. "Watch where you're," I began, but the words died in my throat when I saw who had caught me. Kai, Kai. When Mabel passed away, I had established a foundation for heart disease research, and I invested heavily on medical studies and life sciences. It was a kind of coping mechanism for me. Anything to keep me busy, to keep me connected to the woman I loved more than anything. Anything to make myself feel better. And it did. Every time I did something for people who suffered with heart disease like she did, I felt lighter, more at peace. As I sat there and watched Bella give her speech, something stirred inside of me. We hadn't spoken a lot the other day, and she didn't come across as somebody who was in the medical field. I hadn't ever imagined that she would be a student at NYU, and that too with maddening brilliance and outstanding achievements. The moon goddess has indeed blessed me with another chance. A perfect mate, my wolf purred, the voice echoing inside of me. We have already decided that nothing of the sorts will happen between us. I replied to it, and it snorted, a mocking sound. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I have to respect her choices, I thought as I strolled towards the exit. Mr. Armstrong. A voice I knew too well called me from behind, and I turned around, a smile touching my lips as the short woman hurriedly approached me. Leaving already? She cocked her head to the side, her lips pursed and her hands on akimbo. Yeah, the ceremony is over, I replied. Well, I'm having dinner with my mentee and the valedictorian. I would love for you to join us and I could introduce you to each other. She smiled and I felt my lips stretch into a faux smile. I was conflicted. I really wanted to go. I couldn't help that there was something pulling me to Bella, but then, after what happened yesterday, after you kissed her, my subconscious reminded me. I wasn't so sure she wanted me around. I should probably stay away. Staying too close to her did things to me, and it was probably for the best that I didn't attend this dinner. I opened my mouth to speak, but Eliza cut me off before I could say anything. I'm not taking no for an answer, she said with a sheepish grin, interlocking her arm with mine as she walked towards the exit. Well, damn me. You are going to regret rejecting her as your mate. My wolf sneered, and I fought the urge to scoff out loud. Yes, I was drawn to her, but it was nothing but the mate bond, and we all knew how pulling it could be. Moreover, we already decided that we weren't going to acknowledge the mate bond, so it would be easier if I stopped thinking about the mate bond altogether. She's only a medical student I'm interested in. As we walked into the parking lot, Eliza spoke to me about Bella's achievements and how invested she was in whatever task she took on. She told me about her passion for research, and I felt something warm spill in my chest. Are you driving? I asked, hoping to put a pause to the constant talking about Bella. Actually, yes, I'm taking my car, so I guess I'll see you there? She asked, more like made sure I wasn't going to bail. I smiled. Of course, I replied, and she walked back into the building, probably to find Bella so they would be off. I unlocked the car with its pub and headed to the restaurant. The drive was a bit quicker than I expected, even with the heavy traffic around the city. I had to fight the instinct to drive too fast, a habit I often succumbed to when I was impatient. My thoughts kept drifting back to Bella, to her brilliant speech, her presence in that room. I couldn't stop thinking about how magnetic she was. When I arrived at the restaurant, I was already regretting agreeing to dinner. The dim lights and ambient atmosphere did little to soothe whatever it was that was stirring inside me. My thoughts kept drifting back to Bella, to the kiss that still burned in my mind, and to the pull I felt when she was near me. I would have to control myself this time. I went straight to one of the private rooms. I definitely couldn't stand the amount of people here, and since I knew the manager personally, I definitely wouldn't have to. Just as I was about to enter, I saw Bella walk in with Professor Eliza. I thought she was about to spot me when I saw her eyes land on a couple sitting at one of the tables. I could immediately see how her enthusiasm died as she saw them. She seemed to be trying to avoid them, but it seemed like they managed to spot her first. I didn't know who he was, but I could feel the disdain he was radiating toward her. He and his partner continued to speak, slicing through the noise of the restaurant as he accused Bella, practically cornering her. Something about the way he spoke to her set my instincts off. My wolf was growling in the back of my mind, warning me. I couldn't just sit here and do nothing. I flagged down an attendant, my voice sharp as I demanded answers. "Who is that man?" I asked, jerking my chin in his direction, my gaze never leaving him. The attendant hesitated before answering, probably not expecting the sudden intensity in my voice. "That's Alpha Max of the Cataract Mouth Pack. He used to be Miss Bella's fiancé," he said softly, as though the mere mention of it might carry weight. "Fiancé?" The word hit me like a punch to the gut. I could feel my blood heating, my fists clenching involuntarily. I couldn't stand the way he was treating her. I wanted to move, but I held myself back, not wanting to escalate things too soon. I'm very sure she would not appreciate that. I turned to the waiter. "Make sure Bella's escorted to the private room. Max and the woman with him are to be blacklisted from this establishment. Effective immediately." The waiter nodded without question, and I couldn't help but feel a spark of satisfaction. I wasn't about to let anyone disrespect her, not in front of me. As I pushed through the door to the private room, I was still simmering with frustration. Max and Layla weren't going to ruin Bella's night. I needed a moment to cool off before I did something stupid. The door clicked softly behind me, and I almost didn't see her until it was too late. Bella. We collided, her small body pressing into mine for a split second. I steadied her, catching her with one hand on her waist, but she pulled away almost instantly, eyes flashing like she was ready to bite my head off. "Great, just what I needed," she muttered under her breath. I raised an eyebrow, smirking. "Oh, you're welcome. Wouldn't want you falling over or anything." She shot me a look, crossing her arms, her stance defensive. "Well, I wasn't planning on falling, thanks for the unsolicited help." I shrugged, leaning against the doorframe, a lazy smirk tugging at my lips. "I'm just trying to be a gentleman." "Uh-huh," she said dryly, clearly not buying it, her eyes narrowing slightly. "What are you doing here, anyway? I'm supposed to be meeting with my mentor here." Suddenly, something came over me, something that I couldn't ignore this time. I hadn't anticipated losing my composure like this, yet now that it had happened, I couldn't fight it. I took a slow step forward, closing the distance between us. Bella inhaled sharply, a small gasp escaping her lips, her eyes widening just slightly as I moved in closer, standing inches from her. Then, I leaned in just enough that my breath brushed against her ear, my voice dropping low, barely a whisper. "Why don't you give me a chance?" I murmured. I could sense the tension in the room, the electricity between us undeniable at this point. "Both of us know." I trailed off for a second, locking eyes with her, giving her a bit of space before I continued. "We can't resist each other." Before she could respond, my phone buzzed sharply in my pocket, the sound slicing through the tension like a blade. I cursed under my breath, pulled it out, and glanced at the screen. The name flashing there was Gray. "Gray?" I said aloud, a frown knitting my brows. I didn't recognize the number, but the timing was infuriating. Bella's head snapped toward me abruptly, her eyes widening. "What?" she asked, a spark of curiosity in her gaze. This had better be good.